Hi everybody, this is Meg from Farmgirl Flowers, and today we're in the Farmgirl warehouse and I'm going to be showing you how to style one of our products that is our Luxe Market Box. So we have two different Market Box products. This one is called the Market Hall. It comes with 35 stems, and our other Market Box, the Market Box, the original, is 25 stems. They come sort of not pre-arranged or anything. I'm going to show you how to arrange them today. You'll get a bundle of greens that come and a bundle of unprocessed flowers. Before we get started with styling, there's a few things that you're going to need. You'll want to grab your package of flower food that your flowers came with. You'll also want some water, and you'll want to choose the right vessel that you're going to make your arrangement in. So I've got a few different ones here today. I think for the amount of stems that I have, if I was doing the regular size Market Box that's 25 stems, I might choose something a little bit shorter like this space. But since I'm doing 35 stems today, which is kind of a lot, and these flowers are pretty big, I'm going to choose my taller vase today. And the other thing that I have are a few of these little bud vases. These I'm going to keep on the side. Towards the end, I'll show you how you can use any of your little leftover stems or stems that maybe you trimmed too short and put them in these bud vases. So I'll show you how to style those towards the end. So we'll keep those to the side for now. You're going to grab your water and fill up your vase. You want to add in that package of flower food. Now we've got our water and our flower food in our vase, we're ready to start designing. When your flowers come, they're going to be largely unprocessed, meaning they'll still have a lot of the greenery and leaves and stuff on the stems. So before you get started, you're going to want to sort of pre-process your stem so that you don't have to pause and stop and do that as you go. So I'm just going to go ahead by this flower is Lizzianthus, and Lizzianthus comes with a ton of leaves on it, and so I'm just going to go ahead. It also comes with sort of multiple stems on the same, multiple blooms on the same stem. You can see that. And so I'm actually just going to break this down a little bit just by gently sort of pulling apart these stems. And then the way that I'm going to remove the leaves from this one is kind of just to make like a little circle and just pull my hand gently along the stem like that. And you can sort of remove the leaves. Okay, so you're kind of just gonna make a little circle and just take the extra leaves off just like that. And it's okay to leave some of the leaves on at the top because maybe you want that for foliage, but if there's any little stems like this that maybe their flower broke off, you can kind of trim those too, just like that. I'm just going to kind of continue processing things, gently taking the leaves off, taking any extra stems off. And if you accidentally break a stem while you're processing, it's okay, don't panic. I broke this little stem and I'm actually just going to keep it to the side because that's going to be perfect for my bud vases at the end. So if you accidentally break a stem, don't worry about it. I'm just kind of gently bringing my hand down the stem to pull off any of those leaves all in one fell swoop. So just going to continue processing. It's just going to take me a couple minutes. Luckily, these roses that came with my bouquet are already processed, which is amazing. They're actually fully free of thorns. But if your roses do come and they have a lot of thorns, I would definitely recommend taking those off before you start making your arrangement. Otherwise, you'll prick your fingers a lot. So I'm going to put these aside. But if you do get some roses with thorns, definitely take those off before you start. Callas, another great one that needs no processing. So those are kind of ready to go. I'm just kind of sectioning my flowers into the type of flower that they are, so that it's easier for me to be organized when I start designing. I've got some Gerber daisies here, some really beautiful foxglove. The really fun part about the Market Box is it changes, the recipe for it and the flowers that are in it change weekly, sometimes daily even. It just really depends on what we have in the shop and what is available from our farm partners and growers. And so you can always kind of know that you're getting the freshest, most in-season flowers when you order a Market Box because it just changes all the time. So I've got my last flowers here, which are these peonies. And these came and they're a little bit smaller, but that's okay because I know from peony experience that they're gonna pop right open once they get into this vase with some water. So even if your peonies come and they're a little bit small, that's okay. That's normal. Once I've processed all my flowers, I'm gonna move on to sort of pre-processing some of my greens, although I'm not gonna process them quite as much as I process my flowers. So my greens came in this, and they're sort of rubber banded in a little bundle here. So I'm just gonna cut that rubber band. Some of them you'll see, like the ruscus, you really won't need to process at all because it has plenty of like stem here. And then some of the other greens, like the eucalyptus, you might want to process a bit. So the great thing about getting a stem of eucalyptus like this is that you can actually get multiple, stems out of it to use in your vase. And it's the same motion for processing greens. You're kind of just gonna run your fingers down the stem and get off any of those extra leaves that you don't need. If you have the spiral eucalyptus, I recommend processing it sort of going up the stem. It's easier for some reason than going down the stem. And if you have little bits of greens like this that you're pulling off, go ahead and save those for your bud vases later. I'm not gonna pre-process every piece of greenery because I wanna be able to leave some long in case I want a really tall stem of greens. But I think this is a pretty good start. This is a huge branch of eucalyptus, so I'm just gonna break that down a little bit. All right, now I've got my greens and my flowers all processed. I'm ready to start styling. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is start with a base of greenery. Before I even add any flower stems, I'm just gonna go ahead and add a few stems of greens. And this is sort of gonna provide the structure. I'm gonna sort of crisscross the stems in the base of the vase here so that it's sort of creating a structure so that when I go ahead to add my flower stems, they're gonna have sort of something to rest on. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And again, I'm always going to cut at a 45-degree angle and measure my stem against my vase before I cut it. You can always cut it shorter if you need to, but I always recommend measuring before you cut so that you're not cutting it too short for your vase. And I'm just gonna go ahead and add a few pieces of greenery here. And so again, as I'm adding, I wanna make sure that I'm crisscrossing the stems in the bottom of the vase so that it's adding a structure for my flowers to go into. If you have something like this fern, this is another great one that maybe I'm gonna process a few of the smaller pieces off and put those to the side for bud vases. But this is a great piece of greenery because while it also adds structure, it adds sort of like this airy, sort of whimsical quality to your arrangement. So make sure that as you're using these sort of like bulkier greens, you're also kind of interspersing them with these airy, sort of fluffy, whimsical looking greens. I think I have about 6 to 8 stems of greenery in here. That's usually a good range to start with for greens first. And you can see that I've sort of made this asymmetrical shape where it's taller on one side and sort of shorter on the other. This is like classic farm girl style. We kind of always do this sort of like high-low shape that we talk about. So I went for a little bit taller on this side and a little bit low and maybe like cascading on this side. We'll see how it looks in the end. But I've got like a good mix of greens here, a good mix of things that are really gonna add structure, like these sort of denser greens, and then things that are gonna be a little bit more whimsical, a little more airy, like the ferns and the eucalyptus. So I think we're ready to go ahead and start getting some flowers in here. So I'm gonna start by adding some of these foxglove. And the foxglove are sort of like, obviously a very linear flower. So I'm gonna sort of pair these and stagger them a little bit. And what I mean by that is like have one slightly taller than the other. And I'm gonna leave them quite tall in the vase. Actually, this one's a little bit short, so I'm gonna grab a longer stem. Just add those in. I want those like almost peeking above my greens a little bit. And then again, I'm gonna pair another two, stagger them, trim them against my vase, and maybe have these on the other side. We'll see how that looks. I'm always, as I'm adding things, turning my arrangement so that I can sort of make sure that I'm getting it from all sides, adding stems where they need to go. And I want to have a beautiful 360-degree arrangement at the end, so I'm just going to continue to turn it as I'm adding flowers. So you can see that I'm sort of adding things in pairs. So I've got a couple of Lysianthus here that one is taller than the other, using those tips, putting things in pairs, staggering things, and sort of just continuing to make sure it looks good from all sides. So I sort of started the arrangement by adding in my sort of taller, more linear flowers that were really going to give it sort of like a shape. And then now what I'm doing is adding flowers that are going to just fill in the space a little bit more. And I'm just continuing to sort of fill out the arrangement, measuring as I go. Rearranging as I go. I feel like every time I add a stem somewhere, I'm kind of rearranging or moving around, adjusting a stem somewhere. As I'm adding flowers to my vase, I'm gonna sort of start to think about the types of flowers that I'm adding. And what I will say is that your market box will come with a lot of different variety of stems, and some of your stems are gonna be sort of these flowers that add shape, like the more linear foxglove flowers. Some of your flowers are sort of gonna be like a good filler. They're a little more fluffy. They're good to sort of fill in extra spaces. And some of your flowers are gonna be like the real showstoppers that you wanna put front and center, like your peonies, your roses. So think about that as you're designing, and make sure that you're adding things in a way that you've got your fillers in there, you've got your more flowers that are going to add shape, and then you've got your showstoppers, like where everyone will be able to see them. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few of my peonies. And again, I'm kind of just staggering things. You can see the way that I'm adding things is nothing is sort of on the same level. Everything is like a little bit off center from the other, or off a different height than the other flowers. So I'm paying attention to that, and that's just adding to the overall shape and the overall arrangement. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in a few roses. And you can always readjust if it's not quite the right spot when you first put it in. I'm going to go ahead and add a peony to the bottom here. This peony is really going to open really big, and so I want it sort of towards the bottom to kind of like draw your eye down. Because we have all of these things that are sort of at the top right now that are kind of like drawing your eye up. And so to balance out your arrangement, you want to have something that's going to be like a big showstopper at the base of the vase so that it sort of draws your eye back. So I have my little extra pile of greens over here in case I need it. This is what I'm saving for my bud vases, but it's also here in case I need to add any extra greens for structure, or just I feel like it needs a break between the flowers. So I'm just going to keep my pile here in case while I'm designing I need to add in more greens. And now I'm probably just going to go ahead and continue designing and adding in the rest of my flower stems. So I'm just putting the finishing touches on my vase. I think it's about done. I do have a few extra stems over here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and save those for my bud vases because I think this is about the size that I'm looking for. Do have quite a few stems still left over, which is great because I'm gonna use those for my bud vases. But I think this is about the size that I'd like my vase to be. So I'm just gonna kind of make sure it looks good from all sides. And you can kind of see that I do have that shape that I was talking about in the beginning, this sort of like high-low, sort of asymmetrical shape. And so you can try to do this at home too, and just sort of make one side taller than the other and a little side lower. So I think this is looking really good. So I'm just gonna move this guy aside, and we're gonna bring over our bud vases. I'm just gonna go ahead and fill them a little bit with water. Bud vases are super easy to design and really quick, and you really can't do them a wrong way. So even if you don't follow sort of the same things that I'm doing, your bud vases are gonna look great. And if you don't have bud vases at home, there's tons of other things around your house that you can use. If you have like a little spirits bottle, or if you have a jam jar, or like a little skinny mug or anything like that, that'll work great for this. You can even just cut your stems really short and put them inside something like a little bit bigger, and it'll look really cute. Just gonna sort of go ahead and just process down any little bits of greenery that I have left over, and just process them way down and add them to my vases. And I'm not really as focused on like the particular shape or, I don't know, specific design of this, because it's really just meant to be sort of like a small whimsical little vase. So you don't need to stress about this. You don't need to even give it so much thought, because it's gonna look great no matter sort of what you decide to do. These little, any of the little buds, anything that maybe didn't fit into your vase that's a little bud is gonna be perfect for a bud vase. Just like a sort of small little guy. Anything like this was that stem that I broke earlier. Anything small like that is gonna be perfect in a bud vase. Little rose. I'm definitely gonna cut short one of these peonies and just cut it really short and put it in there. It's gonna bloom huge. It'll just be such a nice little small vase somewhere in your home. So there's really no particular rules that you need to follow with bud vases. It's kind of just a little tiny moment for somewhere in your house. And so they can really just be whatever you want them to be. This one, maybe it's just some greens, and maybe I'll add my other peony. Those are gonna pop open and be beautiful. And then just breaking down some little pieces from my leftover greens and adding them in. Super cute. So I'm just gonna put in my last little bud here, and then I think I'm done with my bud vases. They're just really simple, quick, and easy, so don't stress about these too much. Once you're finished with all of your arrangements, there are some steps that you'll want to take every day to make sure that your arrangements are staying fresh and healthy for as long as possible. So the first thing is you want to choose a spot in your home that's going to be away from direct sunlight and away from any direct heat sources. The other way that you'll want to keep your flowers fresh is by changing their water every day. It's really easy to do that. All you have to do is grab your arrangement at the base of the stems here. You want to pull it out of your vase. You can get rid of this water, wipe out the inside if there's any leaves or debris, and put fresh water in here. And then you're gonna want to give your stems a trim. So I would recommend, you really only need to do about 1/4 to 1/2 inch each day. This will just ensure that your stems are fresh and able to hydrate with all of that fresh water. You can go ahead and sort of squeeze your stems together to fit them back into the vase. And this is a great time to also check on all of your flowers. If there's anything that's maybe towards the end of its life cycle, you can go ahead and remove it and do any rearranging that you might need to do because your flowers have shifted. This has been Meg with Farmgirl Flowers, showing you how to style our market haul. And this video will also be useful in showing you how to style our market box, which comes with 25 stems as well. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.